everyone is joining. We just say to everyone we had a couple of technical difficulties because LinkedIn has changed the way, unfortunately, they admit the live stream. So some of the permissions weren't where they should be, but now we seem to be on. So we're just waiting for Chantel to join us. Last but definitely not least, of course. And because we're already 11 minutes behind, I'm going to dive straight in. And before we do our round robin of our regular hosts, which obviously most of you know, Iona, Chantel and myself, we don't need to talk any more about us because I know that you all stalk us, so that's totally fine. And our wonderful guest, who I'm super pleased to have join us today, Shen Sloan, who is the CEO and founder of Launch Lemonade, a platform that helps people build AI agents, and she makes it look so easy, so simple, and shares with us quite often the difference between observing AI and operating with it and building it to make it relevant for you. And that's really the conversation we want to have today. Shen's got a vast background from product, digital transformation, scaling businesses. She knows what works and what doesn't. And we're here to dive straight into her brain for tips and tricks on how you wonderful people with portfolio careers and fractional careers can use it to 10x your output. I think it's almost akin to years ago I used to say, could I have a time machine or a clone machine to clone myself? Now we've actually got the possibility of doing that. So without further ado, please welcome Shen Sloan. Thank you for joining us.
Hello again, and thanks for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
I want to kick off. I know Chantel is doing some great stuff with AI at the moment and an academy. Iona, I know you and I have been dabbling with it on how we can move away from time fixed costs to looking at impact and output and really speeding ourselves by using AI and tech. But I think if we can start maybe on touching on where we're all playing with it, and then we can kind of get a bit of your guidance, Shen, as to what's working, what we could do a bit better. And then I've got some juicy questions that I've had ahead of time from people sent to me that would be really interesting to get your perspective of. So I'm going to throw it over to Chantel to kick off where she's playing with the AI and how it's working and leading the plight of ethical AI as well.
I guess it's a bit more than playing, but I, at the moment, doing three main things. One is exposing the bias in the model. So working with open models in terms of explainability, what you can see, you can't deny, with my kind of AI governance hat on. Two, I'm doing AI governance. Actually, there's four things. And then three, I'm applying it in businesses. And we've been asked to apply it in hire to retire. So many different processes through onboarding, marketing, digital twins, sales, know your customer, hire to retire, and then also training it. I just left training a whole bunch of people this morning, particularly basically on environment, so how they can adjust the model, making sure they're using the lowest tokens. We've just seen the whole palaver around Uber burning through their 951 million year budget in 1 quarter. How they can have explainability, how they can address bias with having their own RAG models, essentially, and how do they have guardrails for things like ethics in terms of governance. I do it by design, but I also do it by AI governance, and then I drink my own champagne. So it means I have lots of capacity. And I was in south of France most of last month, because I think that's what, for me, AI is about in my research. It was the organizations that didn't do well focused on FTE. The organizations that did well focused on capacity. How can we free up capacity? And essentially, as a solopreneur, as a fractional, as, smaller businesses, we have less, but I actually think it's such an opportunity to topple some big dinosaurs, because we can create that capacity to have whole PR teams, marketing teams, and so forth behind us with the human in the loop, ethically. So that's what I do.
I love it. And I think it was, I can't remember whether they announced the company or not, but someone burnt through 500,000 worth of credits, didn't they, in one day, where some of the developers were using it for queries and whatnot. And before you know it, they'd spent 500,000 in a day.
They
And
haven't announced the company, but I do know that
yeah,
Microsoft also have the problem. So Microsoft have now stopped their engineers from using it. And if you think like $1 trillion company cannot afford to use their own product, this is very interesting. I was on the train this morning when I went to Zurich with a chartered accountant for a big bank, and it's a real big problem because they, from an OpEx point of view, they have no way to control. And I've always said it's now like the chickens are coming home to roost. Everything that I kind of said in my doctoral research around AI is coming home. Like you have to design it human. You have to design it with automation. Because when I say AI, by the way, I do automation and AI. You have to, not everything is AI. You have to understand what's non-deterministic.
what the difference is.
You want. Yeah, what do you want to be deterministic? What do you want to be non-deterministic? So a Gen AI will never give you the same answer. So you have to decide, would I be happy with Eileen, Shen, and Iona telling me different things if it was to produce a piece of copy? Well, actually, yes, I would, because my people would produce different types of copy, right? But not everything is. Like my first AI, which was Python coded back in 2022, we went, okay, that should actually be an SQL database. So not everything should be AI, and that's kind of this hype trail, is we haven't designed it human. It's just throw AI at it, and that is creating a lot of environmental problems. But for me, environmental problems are tokens. But I don't know what.
I think there's two things there. I think the first point that you raised there, where you were talking about how long you've been playing with it, and again, Shen, I know that you've been in that world for a really long time too. But I think we have moved from this world of it being tech, automation. Now it's that artificial intelligence, and I think that that's the problem, right? People use the acronym and forget what it actually means. So I think that there's that point to raise on what you said, but also it was Sam Altman, I think, last week that said his vision is to have, without us going down the rabbit hole of AI and thinking too ethically about it, which we always have the fear in the back of my mind of us doing. He sees it as a vision that it's almost like a utility, that everyone's on a meter, and it will be like accessing knowledge on a meter and intelligence on a meter, which again I have some massive problems with. But we're not here to go down that rabbit hole. We're not going to get political today, I promise. We are going to stay on track and give our audience
Eileen, this is
tips and
this
tricks.
is not possible. Eileen, you cannot be the only one doing politics, not in this round.
It will come back in, maybe with Shen as well, because
Yeah.
if your tone of voice is the same as what's in AI, you will just end up sounding like what it was grown on, which
Yes.
is a lot of pale, stale male. If you really want that to be taking your meter, fine. I wouldn't personally. So I think it will come back and weave back into the conversation in a very interesting way.
Iona, share with us where you're at.
I mean, I'm really on the other side of the spectrum also for you, Shen, to understand where I'm. Like, if Chantal is really our pro in this part, and she's been really deep into the research and thinking systems for years now. I've just started maybe last year, and I had one small, I said, okay, I'm in marketing, personal branding, copywriting, and LinkedIn visibility. It's coming for my job. I have to see what's coming for my job. And then I did a small a course on an AI assistant, and then I was relieved to see, okay, it's not coming for my job. But I did notice a lot of people in the last year. The biggest risk that I see is that they're really doing their own strategies with AI. So it's this, and Sam Altman, this is why I'm like, oh my God, like this dream of one person and one AI assistant becoming millionaire business, this, what they're pushing out there, and also in a lot of startups, is the biggest risk right now. So the pace of people trying to do their own businesses or offer alone with AI, with no other human in the loop, expert in the loop than just AI, is the biggest, newest risk in the startup scene, but also in the solopreneur scene. I do only use my AI for editing. So then I have to edit my voice back in. So
Yeah.
I binge write, I edit, and then I have to put my voice back in because it erases almost, even if it wants to sound like me or what, it wants to sound like how I prompted it 6 months ago, and I do not want to prompt it every day. Like everything that I learn in 1 month, I sound different. I learn, but it reminds me. But I remember you said like, yes, this was December 2025, like, so
But it's not because you're prompting versus workflows, because I think there's a difference between prompting every day versus
I'm
an
not
AI
prompting
that
every
has
day.
you as a workflow of
But I
marketing.
gave it some things to remember, and like remember this, like in terms of how to edit my copy and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, but this was 6 months ago. I have to. So the work around managing it and leading it is really becoming exhausting. Like it's becoming a new job to lead my
That's quite
AI in terms of
interesting.
copy and say no. And I really right now only use it for editing, which is really better than everything I had 6 years ago. I've been solopreneur for 6 years. For editing is still very, very simple, very nice. Also, researching the best hashtags right now for LinkedIn, like all of this is great. Like really very beginner assistant, but nothing in terms of really powerful copy or strategy or connect powerful. It means connective copy. So that's how I use it, and I go to Chantel's offers
You
just to
weren't there
learn
this
ethical
morning.
AI and everything behind it. So, and to just, if I get 10%, I'm very, very happy. I'm like, okay, this was good learning for me. So that's how I am. I'm curious
It's a
about you now, Shin, to know more about you.
Yeah, so I mean, Aileen, what about yourself? Do you want to go first and then I
Oh,
go?
sorry.
Me. What do I do?
Boring.
I use it more as a buddy, I would say. I use it to throw ideas around. I think as a solopreneur, a fractional, or portfolio careerist, whatever blooming title you want to use, it can be lonely and it can be really hard to have that stimulation where you want to just get a different perspective on things. And I'm not saying that I'll throw an idea and whatever I get told it's gospel. And I use obviously Launch Lemonade, and I use separate different platforms. I've got subscriptions all over the place, which is probably not the best thing, but um, for me, I find different AI tools good for different things. So content, long form. I love Claude. I love chat for imagery and just for a quick query. I agree with Chantel. For me, I'm starting to try to use it more in workflows and where I'm building fractionals match, plugging and playing on Lovable and creating on there has been an absolute eye-opener for a non-coding, very big thinking, visionary type profile person. If you put me on the disc profiling of the different colors, I'm super, super red and now moving more into the green of I just need to get shit done, don't talk to me. So I think if you think of that, it's been great to be able to start big and then start to consolidate thought processes with different areas. That's how I use it. I use it as a thinking buddy. I don't use it to do the doing because quite similarly to Iona, as a dyslexic, I've always used Grammarly. I've always used tools that help obviously carve content in that sense to tweak it and make it readable. And not just a blurb or a brain dump. But I think essentially for me, it's been that almost that lean-to buddy that I don't have as a solopreneur. That's where I found it really, really useful, is probably where I'd say my sweet spot is at the moment.
Which is incredible. Like when I met you, I mean, now you've built your own platform and connected a payments mechanism on your platform. I think it's quite incredible. So congratulations. With me, so multiple ways. I think the most exciting thing that we're doing right now in terms of Launch Lemonade is that we're not only helping businesses become AI first, but we're also transforming a lot of our processes to be AI first. So, for example, we've got agents living on our platform that take feedback, take that feedback and make it into a ticket on GitHub, and then implement on that feedback. So an agent can do that end to end now on our platform. On top of that, we've got an agent that then makes sure that tickets that are raised are not prompt injections, are not harmful to our system. So we've got an agent checking if anything that goes into our system can be harmful. So we've started transforming our products and solutions that way and started implementing for customers as well. I think even I am like, every time I give a feedback, I'm like, this is really cool. Like this is amazing. And what we're starting to work on is how do we then make sure that the platform that we're building, as we're still currently designed for humans, how then do we prepare the platform so that agents can use it as well? So we've been experimenting getting agents to use the platform and then see if they can understand the different products that we have on our platform. That's one. For customers, we obviously have like now we have 300 language models on there. So you can build workflows, you can connect it to your emails. We've got all sorts of MCPs. So we're powering up the platform so that small to medium sized businesses can utilize kind of like this powerful, amazing thing. But they don't have to worry about being priced out or running out of tokens because we've got different options on there, from your expensive models to your cheaper models. So your workflows will keep running. So that's very important for us, is how do we make sure that small to medium sized businesses get to participate in the same way that these, big businesses with big budgets can still are doing now. And even, like Chantal mentioned earlier about kind of like the rise of the cost of AI. It's getting really interesting because I think, and I've been talking about this for years, you need to use different language models for different workflows because of price and capability. Like you don't need an Opus 4.8 for a simple automation with a little bit of, like dynamic response. You don't need a super powerful, expensive model for that. So that finally is resonating. So I think that's I'll always find that interesting. And then I guess we're still trying to figure out, and we're building a platform where everyone gets to participate from an equity perspective. So as you mentioned earlier, like one of the things that I'm really passionate about is how do we make sure that everyone gets to monetize? How do we make sure that everyone gets to earn from all of these uh, uh, progress from AI? And yeah, so we're building a platform where people can launch their agents and monetize from them. And then the last layer to that is governance. Like everyone's excited about, like the power, the amazing magical powers that AI is bringing them now, but only a few currently, because maybe the EUA Act hasn't been implemented yet. Only a few are thinking about security and privacy. They ask the question, but they're more concerned about being left behind. So a lot of
Yeah.
companies are turning a blind eye on shadow AI, the fact that different people in their teams are using free ChatGPT accounts or personal accounts that they got from they paid for. For example, a Claude account, and they've issued a Copilot that no one's using. So they've got a Copilot license that no one's using, and everyone's got like multiple laptops at home and using different platforms. So we're also building features in that allow teams to make governance simple and easy. That's just in a dashboard, so you can explain what the AI is doing, observe the tools that it's calling, have an audit trail, and also features that actively log and block PII and sensitive data. I'll stop there. But actually, the last thing, to Iona's point, I love that you said this because this is one of the things that I've been talking about is how do we, and it's a bit of an existential crisis, but how do we change our roles from executing to managing? Because we're now starting to become AI managers, or what I like to call orchestrators. So yeah, those are the different things I've been doing as of late.
I mean,
That's
this
modern AI
conversation
literacy,
exactly
right?
is what I would say for my part of the group. This is exactly the ones that are kind of exacerbates, overwhelm, and makes you say, listen, this is too much. I will just use my chat GPT. And I would like to encourage everyone who is maybe not so techy and doesn't come from, this is my, I mean, this my role in this round is to say, just listen to this conversation that maybe right now it's like 95% you don't understand what it's about. Listen, continue to listen to this conversation, and in 6 months and 1 year you will get more and more of it. I think the part of leading the AI is what adds massive overwhelms to solopreneur. This is a huge issue, and every time it's like it's just easy. It's actually a hidden 50 operational task to manage a new AI, a new model, and there's a jungle of subscriptions that they have right now because they. So, and I'm talking to the masses of people who are not which just came up for us, and we're coming from different expertise and different backgrounds, leaders in other areas, not in the tech or AI part. So there's a jungle of subscriptions that are running and we're not using, and I think for me it's important to scale it down and do way less and way smaller steps, but to understand those smaller steps. I mean, it took me, I watched YouTube videos on what is LLM, what is LLM, or what is this, like, what does it mean, what does it do, to even, I mean, in one sentence of you, I would have to, check out like 5 or 6 like technical terms. It is possible to do. It just means that for the most of us, we need to scale down the speed of expectation or the speed of implementation. And I know from portfolio career mentoring and solopreneurs and startup founders, there's a lot of shame around not really understanding what's going on, but still implementing it under pressure of everyone is doing it. And also because it actually does serve a need. So when we talk, it does just really help. So a lot of time the editing function, the search function has become easier, especially for neurodiverse experts. Instead of Googling something, just having those answers with no ads has been massive helpful for a lot of people. It has been worse for businesses because their websites are shit now, and no SEO can put you out there. You have to do AI first results now. But so for solopreneurs, this speed of technical implementation and demand is really overwhelming. And it's really just a jungle of models and tools for every little thing to manage. And how I mentor is to say, okay, we really need to scale down. So I would ask you, so if you think, of someone that is really, really a beginner, even more beginner than you ever thought, what would be your 3 recommendation around using AI? Because you have AI as a superpower. If you're really thinking of beginners at midlife, so we are not beginners at 17 to 20, they have different challenges. They've been booing everyone saying AI is a superpower at colleges all over the world. So they've been, that's a different challenge. But for midlife experts, 35, 55, what would you say, very scaled down, very simple, is the biggest 3, opportunities that maybe we don't see, besides editing, editing, even negative?
Yeah, I think it's research. It's one of the first ever use cases of LLMs as well, especially when hallucinations have been reduced. And you can add, improve your prompts or add guardrails, reduce hallucinations. And there are even platforms that are specifically built just for research. I think everyone researches. I think every fractional I know at least, or consultant does research. Even if you are on a Copilot license, because that's what work issued you, there's a researcher agent there, and you can choose a different language model, like the latest GPT or the latest Claude to power research agent. And it's quite powerful. You see how this pre-built agent is able to run through multiple steps and give you a powerful result.
Yeah.
It's such a simple use case, but also very useful. And if you're a beginner, I think that would be just like probably the easiest thing. Like you don't even have to think about your prompt, because the research agent asks you follow-up questions. So I would use that.
Start there.
If I was to dial into people that know nothing, if you know me, I'm human first, Iona, right? So I'm not AI first, I'm human first. I think it's about going back to who's your customer, what problem do you solve, how do you best solve it? And so when we're talking about things like guardrails, guardrails are have a number of dimensions. It means that you can't pass bad data or data that you shouldn't do down. It means that you can't do something a little bit dodgy, right? But even before you put a guardrail in, you need to think, well, who am I serving? So if I was serving my mum or my dad, are they at the age where, is it a chat or should there be some kind of human intervention? So I think when we want humans, when we want solopreneurs to be the architects, they have to think about what experience does my persona want to serve and what problems would they have. Now, my mum and dad, they probably would need guardrails because God bless them, they would probably try and put their NHS details in or something like that, right? So I think that there is
But then you say that, Chantel, and this is what concerns me. We talk about those guardrails here, but we've got Instagram influencers that are advising people and women as well, this whole, and I'm going to call it toxic feminism that's happening at the moment, where we have got people prescribing. Mel Robbins was one of them, and I was astonished to see her with her fellowship tell women to be putting national security details, salaries, connecting their banks, and then suggesting that Copilot can give them wealth management advice.
this is a lack
No.
of human and AI literacy, right? And this is who you go
Please.
to, and that's why I say
Anyone watching this, do not do that. Do
Yeah,
not do that.
do that. But in that human literacy, if you are a solopreneur, you're a fractional, you're literally planning out the journey about what you want to do. So if you're researching, like, well, what is it? What's the problem you're trying to solve in terms of research? Well, today we did weekly newsletter, right? So it's not just about weekly newsletter. It's about the problem I'm trying to solve is I as a solopreneur or as the fractionals there want to engage their community on a regular basis. But what is their voice? What is the thing that they stand for? And then you work back from there. There's a process in which to do that. And then you can look at which bits and elements are AI, which model best suits. So I think if they thought about it more human, for me, it would be better. I call an AI like an apprentice. I don't believe actually it's like a PhD. Iona's heard me before. It's more like an apprentice. With an
Yes.
apprentice, they need, like, is it a marketing apprentice, an accounting apprentice? An accountant can't do a marketer's job, and a marketer can't do an accountant's job. So if it's marketing, like Shian was saying, it was like, okay, it's maybe you're using Claude or one of the other 300 models. But is there a toolkit that that apprentice needs? I'm sure you have tools in your platform as well, right? So in order to do the job. So it's like you're arming it. So I think if you think about it in a very human experience way, come at it a human way, then go, how do I solve this? You might need a little bit of an expert. You might need a little bit of a buddy, Eileen, that you're saying. Iona, you might just call me. But you'll then find a way. I think that we go to AI first versus ask those questions about what we need to do.
But you brought something really great up, and I want to ask Shin, that our invited expert on this. I know the next big thing would be like an AI stack, and to say, but don't say numbers like 300, please. Just like say, maybe if you would say and come to you and say, I'm a solopreneur with a portfolio career, so I have various offers, various clients at different stages and so on. What is an AI stack of 3 that you would say, well, this can really scale up, or this can really help you? Give me some good AI stacks.
Yeah. No,
Is
I actually stopped thinking about, it depends on who I'm talking with. Like if it's a more mature team with a small IT team and they're already looking at like, Shen, our bill got crazy this month. I need solutions for this and this and this, then it's a different conversation. But in my company, we started really thinking about just workflows. So on the platform, what we're building right now are ready-made solutions where users don't have to think about, how do I triage my emails? How do I prioritize my week? How do I make sure that my recorded transcription from my meetings become an agent knowledge base? So those 3 use cases are already pre-built. Like a user doesn't even have to think about, I need to build this or connect things so that I can build this. They're already ready-made for users. They just have to click a button or type their email address in, because those 3 use cases, everyone needs a prioritizer, everyone needs an email drafter, everyone needs a transcription tool, and using that transcription tool for proposals or for meeting notes. So, I mean, those 3 use cases will make you productive, period.
So the email drafter, the transcripts becoming agent knowledge, and what was the third one?
Prioritizer. So it will look at your calendar and say, these are the things that you should prioritize, and then it writes your meeting notes and it prepares you for every upcoming meeting. And then it tells you, Shen, you need to block these time out. to do focus time, and it would even suggest what to deprioritize and maybe meetings that you need to move because they're not important.
And I think
So
you're removing the complexity out of that, which is good, because actually, I don't think you can give 3, which is what you're saying, but you're making it very simple for the end user, as in, this is the problem that you want to solve. Forget about the fact that you need an email, you need an MCP, you need those things. I think that's the right answer. It's like, it's a workflow. You're trying to achieve something, I think.
yeah, you don't
And
even have
that's
to prompt. You don't have to prompt to build it. So in Copilot, you still have to say, "This is my problem. I need a meeting between these people. Find me." Da da da. You don't even have to do that. You just
This
literally
is-
enter your-
Can I give
And
it a
this is the
heart?
point.
I can give it a heart. can't I?
You can't give a heart. This is the point, right? Because this is where these are almost like, as a fractional, where are my leverage points? Where are the things that you can look at automating or thinking AI first? It's that immediate application. And I think that's what people often get lost with, because it can be really overwhelming when you're first starting out and you've got so much going on in your head as to what you need to do. But if you start really small in just looking at your time management and getting it to support you with that, that in itself is a great starting point.
Exactly. And that's what we started thinking about. Like only recently we were like, duh, why don't we just like build it, like get this ready for everyone. So we started onboarding some clients. We've piloted this and it's been helping even my team. Like we love it. We're like, oh my God, this is amazing. So we're starting to roll those out now. I've become blurry. Let me just fix that. But yeah, it only makes sense to, like it's you're not actually selling AI. You're selling like efficiency, and this is what it means, like give me the workflows.
Yes. And I think that that's the point, isn't it? There's this Chantel alluded to it earlier. Are you actually talking about automation rather than AI? And I think it's when you understand, as a one person, as a lean team, as a small business, how can you use this to 10x yourself or operate more efficiently? We know now there are not going to be these great oligarch organizations. They are culling by the masses. We are going to have more independent organizations, more smaller businesses, and now it's using technology to improve that efficiency. Hence the boom of the portfolio and fractional world. But subsequently, what that means is, how do we use this to make ourselves more efficient and not think about, I need to hire or I need to go and invest in an intern, or I'm going to ask some talent questions later, but that, there is that whole, when you're building a business traditionally or when you're building a career, you need those layers of support. But now we can turn to AI and automation to make our lives easier. So it's far more cost effective as an individual to get up and running and move away from that corporate environment and do a lot of this on your own and yourself. And research, I think you raised it earlier, Shen, as a big one for me, which I forgot to mention. But I do get concerned, similarly to what Chantel said, where how much of that research is quite biased that you lean on. I do get a bit nervous with that sometimes, with what gets spat back at me. Have you got any tips in navigating that? Or maybe you're a fractional that wants to position yourself as a thought leader, you want to cite some content, you want to cite some thoughts, rather than going through reams and reams and reams of stuff to go through. Have you got any ways of being able to check the checkers of the AI, if that makes sense?
Yeah, but I think we're gonna have to dabble into this from a philosophical lens as well, because I think for me anyway, I think you have to accept that most outputs will be biased, if not all. There's gonna be some level of bias in the outputs. Um, uh, Going by that rule and then interrogating it is probably the safest way to go. um, uh, because we've been talking about this quite a lot, but like the data that all of these LLMs are trained, but you've got some specialists, like there are LLMs that are being built for specific languages, for example, or specific demographics. I had this idea last night. Was it last night or the other night? I was like, oh, what if I just build like an LLM. Oh, someone trained, this was it, an LLM of just recipes from all over the world in different languages. I was like, this is brilliant. What if we do it for women, just female LLM? You know, like what would that look like, and what type of use cases will this be used for? But yeah, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been deeply reflecting on this. So I don't have a straight answer, because I've even been reflecting on, like my the heuristics that I live by, or the algorithms that I live by. There's a lot of bias in there, because I was thinking about what makes me human, right? And then I was thinking, is it that gut feeling? But is my gut feeling just a heuristic? I don't know. I can go on a rabbit hole around bias and
So I wouldn't leave it. I don't think it's something we can't do anything about. I think you could, in your workflows, we build RAG models in, so retrieval augmented generative RAG models in. Last week I was sat next to the Swiss justice system and Apparatus. Apparatus is a open source model, which we know, for example, they admitted we have bias in. And when you put a RAG model in your workflow, you can start to offset the bias. So I would hope that we would admit where bias is, and then what do we do to address it, with things like female bias, or with things like Arabic. So people are building the over 200 Arabic languages and things like that.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the
yeah.
part that I think what Shin says, and it's true, and I think AI has really showed us. I mean, we were feeling it, we were saying it, but it is just really was a harsh mirror on how much data is missing. So, in research
Yeah.
and so on, so it actually just does not have data to pull on, for example, in women's health. Like, there's just no studies. So I think this has been, a blessing and a curse in disguise to see, okay, well, we need to do this data. We don't have this, there isn't, and there's not enough women on Reddit. So, I mean, I'm doing my part in supporting women doing more content online, and say, okay, you need to speak, you need to use your voice and your thought leadership that is not from AI, that is really, that you do not see anymore, because it hasn't been out there on Reddit or on in the studies. So I think this is something that we once again as women have to look in the mirror and say, yes, it was a reality. So now what, like Chantal says, to not become super jaded and say, well, this is bigger than us, we cannot handle it, like, just it's this what it is, because we are standing on the shoulders of women who could not vote, or who are in psychiatric, they were with our conditions in psychiatries, and they crawled themselves out, and they've written under pseudonyms. I've loved all the women that have written novels under pseudonyms. So those are the women, the experts, and the shoulders that we're standing on.
Yeah.
So we're not becoming jaded and say, well, because I also have like, oh my God, this is so big. Like, what do you do now? And this is why I go to Chantal's meetings. Okay, just small steps, and we are doing some guardrails and checking those biases again and again. And I've been to one of her in-person AI trust circle, and one of men said, well, yeah, we just want to look at this for once and for all. It's not possible. Ethical discussion will be circular and coming back
Forever.
up again. And we cannot, we're exhausted. Maybe take a break, get,
But
touch some
also,
grass.
that's the
I'm
point,
really
right?
interested when you were talking about your equitable access, because that to me makes so much.
The
I
finances.
should have given that another heart, to be honest. Because I think that there's always been a digital divide, right? There's always been those that can and can't afford it. And I like the idea of the platform. You've got the workflows, and then you've got these things set up. What does it mean for equitable access? If someone's maybe in a lower income, or someone's starting up, or from another country where the cost of living isn't as much. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because it's probably fractionals from like all over the world, and that spoke to my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the platform, we've got tools where people can transform their agents, or their expertise or ideas into agents using the like a very easy kind of like RAG system to use, and then they can deploy these agents. They can even use tools and deploy these agents in a marketplace. So currently, consultants and builders can build an agent and white label it or resell it. But now we are going to be launching in the next couple of months a marketplace where a consultant who's got an expertise in something is able to transform that into an agent and then launch it in the marketplace where they can monetize. So everyone gets
That's
to participate
amazing.
in the economy.
I
Exactly.
can see Iona
Shen, that's
Zero.
phenomenal.
So there were a couple of people asking me today. So actually, I'm going to send them your way. They're in my ethical AI, human and AI group, but they were asking me for things like this. So that's really amazing.
Thank you. And one that the problem that we're solving is that we're seeing a lot of builders, but they don't know how to go to market or
Yeah.
find businesses that would buy their agents. And a lot of businesses right now are buying from IT firms or developers, but these IT firms and developers don't really understand the workflows or how these industries
No.
work, or like how these workflows should be working. It should be those experts who
Yeah.
should be building these agents and then selling back to these businesses. So
And that's the point, right? At the end of the day, you're a founder of a business. You know your business, but you don't know the HR principles. You don't know the people stuff. You don't know the marketing stuff. You don't know the operational aspect. And that's the point. Stay in your lane. And then if you can get an AI bot or an agent that's actually been downloaded from someone that has that knowledge and that nuance and that judgment and that experience and that expertise, bingo. But I love the fact that you're opening that up to a community that it might not be accessible to
Yeah.
prior. It does. And this is my only challenge I'm having with AI at the moment, where we kind of think of the next generation. And I think there's so much conversation around AI is going to create more opportunity. It's going to be great for what is the next 10 to 20 years. Some companies are hiring obviously leaner, as we've already touched on. They're obviously looking at this as operational efficiency. But for me, there's such a reduction now in junior roles coming through.
Yeah.
And the expectation of leveraging more from every single person that has done the donkey work, that has done the grunt work, has the war wounds and those nuances, and can make those judgment calls that isn't in a book or isn't driven by our AI. How do the next generation now learn that in order to prompt it or run it effectively? And are we almost accidentally creating now a generation of portfolio careerists that almost won't have the fundamentals? Again, existential crisis, philosophical, because it's not relevant to the portfolio careerists of today, but it's something that's really bugging me.
They have agents on that island. They don't need the fundamentals. They'll have 3 agents. One from you, one from me, one from Chantel. They have 3 agents. They don't, it's okay. They're even in our name. They don't need
Yeah.
it. I mean, I think with every and I'm curious to know what you think, Shane, with any technological development, some skills will get lost. So I don't think we can preserve everything that how we were and how we used to be. That's our grief at going through a technological revolution, is that we will lose some skills and we will lose some realities, and a lot of people, those habits of how to work were connected to their identity, and doing the emails and the calendars, like this is massively affecting the identity, not only jobs, the identity of so many people over the world. So this grief and resistance that is also coming from that side, I think we'll have to face it and say, yes, we are going to lose, we're going to lose some skills, and we're going to gain some. So I think right
But
now
this is the point, right? Is it? I'm not necessarily saying it's grief, but what I think what I'm trying to get to is, how are we designing? There's that interim period, right? That flux.
Transition.
So we're talking about where we are and how we're adapting. How are we now paving the way, to some extent, as much as we can talk about the generations that came before us and how tough they've made it? There has always been an element of sending the elevator down. I would like to believe, anyway. That's the kind of human that I am. How do I send the elevator down for the next generation when I don't want to hire an intern? I don't want to hire an administrator because it's not cost effective. And this might be more of a crystal ball conversation here. and we're going to extend this a little bit because we started late anyway, but I'm quite intrigued to see what everyone's thoughts are in what does that mean and what can we do as fractionals, because we should think about wider societal shifts for that next generation. What's that going to look like? What do we think it's going to look like?
So I don't think, so when I say we, I mean the politicians or society or companies. I don't think they are doing anything. I was in Bern on Friday,
Well, we
having a
know that.
meeting exactly about this, and in October we'll run a session which brings teachers together, which brings older people together, which brings children together, it brings the different personas, looking at shaping the organisation. So yet to be announced in terms of, but it will be in Bern on a Wednesday, because that's half day, that bring those different facets. I'm putting kind of my AI governance societal hat on there, not my AI designer builder, because I think it is, yes, it's absolutely a fundamental question from a mental health point of view for kids.
Yeah.
Coming into this new era, but like you say as well, like what's the crux of the knowledge or the things that they still need? So it's a bit like you still, even when I'm, and it's low code, so even when I'm coding at the moment, you still need to know some of the principles, right? You still need to know. So there will be things that they need to know, but we haven't. We've just gone head first into an AI first piece without thinking about all these different realms of society. And I will also say, I actually don't think it's just about the younger people. I think it's about the older people too. When
Yes.
people are being let go at high rates and they can't get jobs and they're of a certain age and then their pensionable age doesn't kick in. So this problem, it just hits differently. And I think we need to engage that, and there needs to be a bigger conversation, and then we can look at the portfolio. I do think portfolio is at the crux of it in different ways, but that
Yeah.
comes back down also to the education system of philosophy, critical thinking, all of these things, so that when they step in, that we still want kids to have a healthy life where they're not competing with a data center for some dirty water or clean water, you know. Just
But
to,
I mean, what for you, Eileen? Because I mean, we have daughters, no, and so mine is a bit older; they're 18. When I think we don't see, maybe because the whole opportunity part, and I know it's really, they would boo me, and also my kids are very critical. I don't think we see yet all of the reactions to this technology. There are already young people building different platforms already because they don't like LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, or TikTok. I think the content creation, the young people are born with content creation in a way that we are not. So we had to go to some, Oxford University and ask for permission to have a book, printed, and it wasn't. But they can create content from such a young age, so there's a huge opportunity there. Content by them, for them, that we will get a bit out of. Like, we do not get to be, Walt Disney doing movies for kids. It's gonna be them doing content for them. So that's a huge new, I think, area, market, opportunity. We don't even have to send the lift down. It's not coming up to
Yeah.
us. I mean,
Yeah.
we are out of the lift. So they're like, they're on a different playground.
Move aside. Just move
like
aside.
on the
They'll pave their own way.
I mean, my kids, my daughter, I remember in Corona, she started on Discord. I'm like, oh my, what is Discord? She is doing there, like she has 3 servers that she leads. She does the roles. She started when she was 12 or something. She does the roles. She kicks people out. She blocks. She gets people in. They do challenges. It's a world, like, I think that's a huge new world that has opened up for them that maybe we don't see it. We have a blind spot. But I would love to, so that's what I see a little
So
bit.
you're basically telling me just stop worrying and it will all be fine.
No, I just say, look, this is shit, but this might be nice. Because you're like, okay, where is the lift? I think that might be. But maybe you have more.
Yeah,
beautiful-
share. What do you see as well, right? I'm sure you get some demographic shifts and data sets on who's using what that you're privy to that we're not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the concern is valid. We read, there was an article from the BBC last week about the rise of unemployment from ages 16 to 24.
Yes.
Never have we seen before where people from 16 to 24 years of age have never been ever employed, like record numbers. But also there's a statistic that I've learned from a year ago that 75% of Gen Zs are wanting to become entrepreneurs. And then a personal anecdote is my nephew, who is 16, designed a digital rocket ship and is becoming a mechanical engineer, and his dream is to become like an aerospace engineer. And there's a booming space tech happening right now, and there's quantum and there's physical AI that a lot of kids are actually into, especially like my nephew's circle. I'm like, this is really cool. You know, there's robotics as well. So I think that there will and uh, 15, 20 years ago, it was all about digital marketing and communications and all the fun stuff. But I think there is a little bit of a shift now that is permeating that younger age that I'm actually really excited about. I think it's so cool. Like my nephew, he was in a competition where they launched this rocket that they designed digitally, and he landed in the moon first, something like that. I was like, I didn't do this competition. I did radio DJing and copywriting and whatever. You know, I built a simple HTML website. So I think that the concern is valid, but also there are so many exciting things that are being innovated right now, that gives hope to the younger people. And I'm blurry again, but
Yes.
it's my
But I
camera.
think it's a valid, like what you say, and I mean they are saying this. This is why they're booing these university teachers, the
Yeah.
way that education system, like the education system was always behind. It's always traditional, conservative in its
And
way.
will
But
be
yeah.
forever.
I've
It's
got
never
plans
going to
to change
change.
it. I've got plans to change it.
Let us know, Chantel, when you get there. But for me, as I said, as a neurodivergent individual, it
works.
has failed time and time again. It's about this box.
Yeah.
And for me, what Shen's already said and what Iona's referred to, they are evidently individuals that are thinking wider, that are very innovative, and are definitely willing to disrupt. And I don't think that exists with anyone. And I think, again, I don't even want to mention his name, but a certain individual that leads a tech company, genocidal in some ways, let's not go there, but we'll come back to the point. He referred to that the future is very much geared towards neurodivergent individuals that are looking at that wider space. And whilst I loathe the fact that I'm going to agree with him on a point, I do think he has a point. And I think that that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing how do we think differently? And if we go all the way back to cavemen eras and innovations at that point, those were your hunters and your gatherers, right? Those are the people that drove our societal
The
survival.
cave
So
women, yes, the cave
Yeah.
women too.
I-
Cave
Always.
women.
They weren't.
Always. We're always going to bang that drum.
I'm not disagreeing that the school system as is not designed for those people, but it will force something, to happen.
To shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will force
But
something
I mean,
to
what
shift.
what will remain now is for us as the or like the parents or the mid generation to actually, be open to new ways, because we've been trained a certain way of how we do research, of how we do
Yeah.
content, of how we think, how we do thorough. And so it is really hard for us also to be open and to see new opportunities, say, yeah, it's okay, don't go. I mean,
I
I
agree.
literally feel it. It's really hard to say, yeah, it has lost value when it is never this black and white. And neurodiverse people with money have always had opportunities. Just to lean into what you said, neurodiverse people with money had collections, had the best cuisine. Those were all, so having resources with neurodiversity is the superpower, not without, because without you are still really excluded from many spaces, including
I
in
don't
healthcare and
disagree
so
with
on.
that also.
So
Yeah.
it is like, how do we monetize and how do we do business by design to really lean into creating financial and wealth for us and for our kids. So there is a superpower with the neurodiversity.
But this comes back
Yeah.
down to Sien, your platform for me, because
Yeah.
also education on what we deem to be education, and companies and how they rethink about what does it mean when I take people on. I thought trail is this, right? So people are learning by doing, and like you say, you don't need to go and go the official route to go and write a paper, but you could go and do your research and share it, or you can go and build your agent, and that is evidence of what you can do. And I think a neurodivergent will get more into wanting to code something, do something, build something, workflow in a platform like that where they can monetize that. But that means they might not go a traditional route, which typically a corporate would pick them up from, because they're expecting to see that they went to high school and they did the degree and they did this and no gap on the CV. But yet we already have, as you just quoted, 16 to 24-year-olds who have never worked. And so
Yeah.
the companies are going to have to rethink, how am I judging someone in a hiring process if I want to take them on? What is it that I'm looking for? And as a portfolio career, we just have to go for the
Talent
plan.
intelligence is the answer to that, but that's a different conversation at another time. AKA watch this space. I'm going to change us piece slightly, because just looking at the time, we've got 10 minutes until, I think we could talk all night about this, and I've absolutely loved every minute of it. Thank you so much, ladies. I want to pick Shen's brains now more on, we've spoken about some leverage points where people can get started as fractional or portfolio careerists. And I suppose you spend your time watching a lot on how people practically use AI, right? As Chantel, you've referred to in your masterclasses that you offer. What are people getting wrong? And I mean, like the consultants, the fractionals, portfolio professionals, people that are just starting out. What are they almost underestimating or maybe being sometimes over-investing in, thinking that AI can solve or do for them? Because I think it's important, as much as we can say these are some leverage points, this is where to start, knowing where people are going wrong can also steer you on a better path anyway. So I'd love to get your opinions on that.
The most common thing that I'm seeing, having been a product leader, managing products and engineering teams, and understanding that cycle of launching an MVP and then looking at the bugs and looking at the feedback and then iterating that and then QAing that again and then optimizing that. It's the same process as agent building. A lot of people right now who don't have that experience of having built products think that it's a set and forget or like a one-time build and it's going to work forever and it's going to be perfect. We all have to learn how to become product managers and learn that we actually this agent might break or this part of the workflow might break, and will have to manage these agents moving forward. And it's not a one-time thing and it's going to work forever and ever. I see it all the time. Like after like delivering a couple of solutions, they message me the next week, it didn't work today. I'm like, try again in an hour. Let's see if that works. And then like understanding release cycles and release processes. Like how do we make sure that a smaller group is happy, and then moving that out of kind of like a little POC. Like all of these agile product skills that I learned, I think everyone should be learning, especially when it comes to deploying agents.
Where is a good place to go for that? Where would you recommend that people start that journey? So if they're looking at building automations, or they're looking at starting out that journey as a fractional or portfolio careerist, where would you say would be the best place to say, okay, I need to think more product management? Where do I start? Where do you go? Do you just throw it into AI as prompt? Say, how do I start thinking more product-like? Or what would you recommend?
Thinking product-like is quite simple, actually. So one, you have an MVP, which means minimum viable product, which means something that can work to solve the simplest version of the problem that you're trying to solve. So having built that, and then and then the next step is seeing if someone would test it for you and give you feedback, like literally one person. And then once you get that feedback, improve what you've built, and then share it to more people. It's as easy as that. You get feedback, and then you apply the feedback on your product or your agent, and then you just do that cycle over and over and over again. What you do is choose one platform, whether it's Lovable or ChatGPT or Claude, build something very simple. use it, test it, and then put something in your diary where you say, check my agents if they're working, or check this automation if they're working. 8 a.m. to 8:05 a.m. See if it worked or if it ran. If you're doing a scheduled agent, it's not easy. You don't need to do any YouTube videos. Just
Love it.
put something on your calendar and just do it.
Chantel, is there anything that you'd add to what you're seeing from your intimate round circles in your academy as to where
for
people
me,
are
I do
going
put
wrong?
time in my calendar. It's about, you have to create place for the new. So when you create the space
like
for the
that.
new to go, you know, if I was to, what was I so busy absorbed in this week that would, if I was to release it, would let go of my time? Because there's the internal stuff as you as an employee or employees, and there's the external stuff, which is the, you know, the customer problem. And then I would go workflows. I wouldn't go ChatGPT or anything like that. For me, it's workflows. And I do see that the human design is so underestimated. It's really underestimated and not thought about. But in what Tien just outlined, if you go via the MVP route, you'll pick it up because you're getting the feedback. I think it's really important to get the feedback. So I haven't really got much to add. She pretty much outlined
And
it.
I mean that with the the loop is the same with content, the same with a lot of process that we do. That even in marketing or personal branding, you cannot say, okay, this is it. You've achieved final form of your personal brand and now just repeat it. No, you have to stay super close to your feedbacks, but you need an expert to help you audit those feedbacks. So what I've noticed is if you don't know how to read your numbers or your feedback, as if you don't have an expertise, I'm just saying it now in content, is me getting 20 likes, is this a lot or not? And if you're not sure, is it, how did it perform? How much did you post? Is the account big, small, whatever? What did you post? So without an expert, you cannot actually, audit what you do. So I would still keep an expert in the loop in this process of workflow automation. What I really liked is the expertise agent, just because I'm working with solopreneurs and they're always looking at ways of, okay, what happens if I'm sick, if I travel, if I have, a short notice, something
it's valid.
happens and I need some, backup plan. At the moment, that's the biggest, the biggest pain point a lot of time is that even now, for example, for the summer, a lot will just disappear and they have to and come back in September. So I'm really interested in how easy is it actually to have this agent in my voice that I can have maybe when I'm gone as a solopreneur, or when I have a break, or when I'm not available. So if people are interested in this solution, they go on like on your platform, and can you tell me just to round it up, do your the pitch for this, and then we can round it up. I think.
Yeah, I would pitch that, now is the time to productize yourself if you are an expert or if you're really curious about something. And if you've got like deep knowledge, and you have documented this knowledge, perfect. Documentation is key. Then start building that knowledge base and choose any platform where you could connect that knowledge base to an LLM, and then see what you can build, whether you're building a chatbot or a voice AI or literally a product that has that knowledge in. There's a lot of options for you, but it starts with you. Like
Documenting
what
your
is it?
knowledge.
Yeah, what is your expertise? I would start with it, just understanding and mapping that out. And if you're already a worker, if you're already an employee, I would really start mapping out your processes. So you've got a knowledge and you must have workflows currently within your role. I would really internalize the process and the exact steps that get you from point A to point B of that task, because that will be critical when you start automating that with a workflow. So those would be where I would start. And then you can choose a platform. You can choose Launch Lemonade, and you can start productizing and monetizing from that. Yeah.
I think portfolio careers and fractional careers are clearly not slowing down, and we've already alluded to the next generation almost accelerating them from the examples that were shared here that were really close to home. I think that AI is not making people less important. I think it's just a case that we need to think that this is business changing. Iona articulated it. It's a revolution. Great people are still going to matter at the core, to Chantel's point. And I think every decision that you're now making carries more weight. And I think that's the difference. I think historically it was easy to almost make an error and cover that. I now think in a leaner team, when you're hiring people, when you're thinking about what you're doing, when you're either building an agent or, in your words, Shen, like being iterative in that product mindset, every shift, every change, every decision is so much more crystallized now than maybe it was before. So I think maybe the question isn't, should people use AI? The question is actually, are you using it fast enough and building with it? I think that's more what we should be saying. Chantel obviously has said mapping that. You're going to say the opposite because you think it's
I
more
don't think we should go
taking
fast.
the time.
I still think it's about making clever decisions about where. The speed to do everything AI, in my gut, you can see I'm not very good at masking. So I don't think it's about speed or fast. I think it's about when and where, right? And I do understand your platform is automation and AI, right? So it's both. So I think that's the piece. I don't think it should just be speed and do everything AI, because that's the problem that we're seeing at the moment. But I agree with the rest of what you said.
Yeah, I think there's two sides, because I think it depends on where you're at. Because in the bigger companies, I totally agree with you. You need to understand there's legacy, there's process, there's already an existent. But I think if you're starting out, I think learning fast enough and building with it is going to definitely 10x you, rather than being in a position that you're taking the slower route and almost going down the perfection paralysis and overthinking it. I think the idea of...
Yes, I think learning, you should always learn to unlearn, be curious and speed with that. Sorry, I thought you meant like the execution of. And I think that in my experience, it's been when you come to the execution, was that a database? Was it this? What was it that? And I think speed can trip you up, because you then end up doing an agent or agentic AI for everything when it doesn't need to be. And I know with your platform, you were saying you won't get, increased costs. So that's great. But with other platforms, you would. And if there's someone out there listening, they're going to increase their cost base. But even if you don't, and somehow a company is protecting that, there's still an environmental cost to the tokens that you're using, right? There's still a planetary cost. It just doesn't need to be. But learning, yes, I think there should be nothing stopping you. Go through, learn. And actually, my experience is that it's helping individuals re-understand their business, because the fact is some of them didn't understand the problem that we're solving, or the customer. Like, we added 2 extra weeks to our academy because I didn't understand that. And so when you start to ask those questions, speed is one thing, but it's like the hare or the tortoise, right? Who really wins the race?
I think we can agree it's that you can just not ignore learning about it. That's like the
Correct.
common viable thing.
Yeah.
You cannot ignore it. Like, you cannot just say, hey, AI is for techie, because it's impacting your life. So at least you need to know what it's like.
I think I totally second that, Iona. I do think that that's the case. I think that the point that I'm trying to get across is, when we're saying build at speed and do that, it is with the premise that it's in your lane, which is what I referred to earlier. So the idea of making sure that that is your knowledge base, you know what you're doing, and you're replicating that to make your life easier as a fractional or a portfolio careerist. I'm not suggesting that you go and create... My world is people and culture. I wouldn't think about going and creating a financial or a wealth management agent.
See, this
but
is
I would
always have a challenge within your lane. because you have some of us have M-type careers, right? So that
Yeah.
I didn't say anything before, but in your lane touches upon me. It's when
This
we
is
talk
where we
about
get the drink and
I'm
People
triggering
turning a
Chantel tonight, really.
it's you tonight. It's you too. So Shannon, I'm gonna take the to bring the art because I know my co-leads here and the conversations are amazing and can be very long. Thank you so much for joining us super much on LinkedIn Live. Thank you, Eileen, so much that you take on the tech part, and also Chantel. I'm super.
It was a
grateful.
hash tonight, but we got there.
It's just I'm just hoping you don't give up. You know, like you face the uncomfortable 10 minutes, and you like please stay. So I'm super grateful, Shannon. We're gonna follow you on LinkedIn. I'm gonna check Launch Lemonade for sure because there is a seat there, and let's see in 1 year if we all have an expert agents monetized or not. Like I mean.
I'm
Let's
going to send it to my community because I think they're going to be very interested.
Yes.
By the way.
And thank you so much for everyone for joining. And yes, see you on LinkedIn.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.